Well, welcome everybody, and I'm so proud today to have two frequent collaborators of mine, the amazing master teachers, Shannon Davis from Glenville High School in Cleveland and Ga-Vita Haynes from the School of One, also in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've known Ms. Davis and Mrs. Haynes since I think the fall of 2018, when I was assigned to be an instructional coach at Glenville High School. And an instructional coach is basically kind of what it sounds like. I go around and drop in on the teachers, and I try to help them with their lesson plans or materials, whatever they need. Sometimes I co-teach or take part. And I soon learned in the fall of 2018 that I was going to be learning more from them than they learned from me. And so today what we're going to do is just kind of reminisce about some of the projects they were doing and just kind of talk about some of the projects that are in the book, described in the book. Both of Ms. Davis and Mrs. Haynes were contributors to the book and are on the title page. I'm very proud of that. The book, I always tell people, the genesis of the book was one day I was sitting in Miss Davis's class and she said, "Okay, everybody take out your cell phones." And that really got my attention because I'm used to being in schools many times where they, confiscate the cell phones at the door, or they make them leave them in the office or in their lockers rather. And so that really got my attention. And she was doing an activity that was related to the book, The Hate You Give, which she was doing with her 10th graders. And Ms. Davis, could you start out just by telling us a little bit about that assignment?
I believe that was the assignment where we were looking up athletes who were using their voice in protest. When we started the Hate You Give unit, one of the main themes is using your voice. So we wanted to build on that and, make a personal connection. So with our students, I think that like the culture is very celebrity driven, athlete driven. So I wanted to connect them to people that they were familiar with for their sports or sportsmanship and their careers, just to see how you can use your platforms and use your voice to speak out against what's right. So they were looking up people such as Muhammad Ali, Serena Williams, and also John, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name, John Carlos and Tommy from the 1968 Olympics, and other people that they were familiar with that were fighting for things they didn't even know. They weren't aware that Serena Williams was fighting for equality in pay for women in sports. So it was a really good activity just for them to make a personal connection and hopefully to end up inspiring them to use their voices to speak up.
And that's what happened. I mean, I was there that day when they were doing that, and it was really impressive. And it really got my wheels turning about, I've always been a proponent of using different media in the English classroom, and you were doing it. I'm going to go right to the crux of the controversy about the cell phones. Have you had, of course, we never get 100% participation, but have you had a lot of kids abusing the privilege of using cell phones in the classroom?
When I first started teaching, yes, but I didn't know how to navigate it. But coming to Glenville with an 80-minute block, I came up with a system to try to help. So they have permission to use the phones if they finish work early. So if we start with the do now, it may take student A 10 minutes, it may take student B 5 minutes. So student B will have a few minutes to be on their phone quietly. So it kind of helps them to stay on track because if they know they have a couple of minutes, they'll finish quicker. And then after that, usually for the classwork section, they aren't allowed to use them because we're going to work for the rest of class. But that's the way I've done it. And when I realized that 98% of them have phones, I'm like, let's use them. Let's see if we can incorporate them. If there's a Kahoot game that we can do, or if we can do some research, let's use it. Now that we have one-on-one devices, the students can either use their phones or their laptops.
And I've seen recently, when you ask about abusing like cell phone policies and things of that nature, recently I've seen students, watching YouTube videos and just doing things that they're not supposed to be doing on their phones. And so what I do is redirect. Most of our programs are online, but they need a lot of resources. And so what I've done previously in the past year with the cell phones, I tell them like, okay, you have 20 minutes to use your phone for like, if you need to look up a math, like a resource math video on YouTube, or we use IXL, and some of those tutorial videos do not work on on the school laptops. So I let them use their phones to look at those tutorial videos. In addition to when we're reading a book, just a week ago, we started reading this part, the first part last. And so I let the students download the app Audible on their phones. And so they are able to, like I said, 20 minutes, listen to the book for 20 minutes, just giving them a time frame of using that device for a resource for their education as well.
Yeah, I just love that. I mean, I just think it's the real world. I know that, my experience has been, of course, recently in higher ed, but I have really found that if you tell the students, okay, we're going to do it, we're going to use the phones this way for X amount of time, and then we need to put the phones away for 10 minutes. I found that they follow that.
Mm-hmm.
I think they respect the fact that the teacher is, letting them use their devices as they would in the real world.
Yeah, because it is a battle that we've been fighting for a long time in the schools, about put your phone away. I don't want to see your phone, when we're taking high stake tests,
yes,
OST tests, NWEA testing, the students sometimes will argue with you. I don't want to give you my phone, so it's just, when you give them that little bit of time to use their phone, you're building a relationship, you're building trust. And so when it's time for them to give up the phones for 2 hours, an hour and a half to take these high stake tests, they give you the phone because you have built that relationship throughout the school year for them to trust you to handle their cell phones, because that is their world. So
it is.
Yeah, I just think that just using electronic devices, even I had wrote a grant for, they're not iPads, but the Fire, I can't even think right now, but they're similar to iPads. And so I was able to get 5 of those for my classroom. And so when students are done with their work, yeah, you can go grab one and you can use it for 20 minutes. That's like a free time for you, and then just put it back. And that way their phones are still up. You're still using electronic device. They don't care what it is, as long as they can get, some free time and get on something that they love to do. And so that's why we tied in, using your cell phones in class for resources to complete a task that was given to them when we taught the Hate U Give book.